Welcome back to One of the Trenches podcast. We took a week off. We did not end the podcast. We are back. We're going to recap week 8, talk about week 9. I'm Johnny Jones. He's Patches Kaplan. What's up, Patch? How we doing?
Johnny, we're doing good. I know there's a lot of rumors flying around that you ended the podcast after your James
Ton of
Franklin
rumors.
was shit canned. I even thought for a moment that we were going to end the podcast. We talk about the Dark Knight a lot. We talk about the Dark Knight a lot. And there's a scene where Alfred was right. And I'm drawing a blank on what exactly was said, but he said something on the lines of, "I told you so," to Christian Bale. And
I don't remember that part of the Dark Knight at all. I remember Alfred saying some people want to watch
where
the
he's
world
like,
burn.
he said something on the lines of like, "I bloody told you so. That's the day I don't want to say it," or something like that. But there is a guy on this podcast, I don't know who, if it was you or me, that said Penn State is going to miss the playoffs. Penn State.
First of all, no. You told me at our first episode of this season, and I'll go back. You said Penn State's a favorite to win the national championship in their lock. You told me like 3 weeks ago on the podcast that Penn State, LSU, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Texas Tech bet them to make the playoff. We should put our mortgages on it, and we'll all be quitting our jobs.
Well, first of all, that's why I'm getting foreclosed on this month. Secondly, I changed my opinion week to week, but I was ahead of the trend with Penn State. I saw the flaw. Johnny, do not lie to yourself. You know I saw it.
No. First of all, I think you said stuff to make me angry, to piss me off. I don't know how hardly you believed it. That being said, I'm proving that all wrong. That's not why we missed last week. Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day, they put a wrench into all of our work schedules. It is not because James Franklin got fired. I called you and I agreed with the firing. I will address that in my State of the Union segment that is coming up. But let's start with the Week 8 recap. Yep. What a week we had. Unbelievable week of football. Let's go chronological order. Let's start Friday night. Louisville, 24. Number 2 in the country, Miami, 21. Classic Jeff Brom. Absolute wizard of these upsets. What were your thoughts? Friday night game.
I should have saw it coming. Sometimes I text my mom and ask her, what games that she likes. And she picked both Georgia and she picked Louisville. Two incredibly random games. I said, why do you like them? And she says, just do. And in that exact moment, I said to myself, Miami's in trouble. And as I look back on our previous podcast, it's funny, I put the thumbnail to our previous show as Miami's on an island because I said Miami's an island of their own. And Carson Beck goes out there and throws 4 interceptions, 0 touchdowns, blames his wide receivers. They looked like a joke of a team. And now I'm sitting here saying, and you know me, I overreact to every win and I overreact to every single loss. Is Miami as bad as I think they are in my head? Or were they never as good as I thought they were? Because that's a nightmare situation now for Notre Dame. And that's the selfishness of me.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I was going to ask, are you freaking out that, and this is what I thought, and I think this is what Miami fans have to be a little nervous about, is because we saw old Carson Beck in that game. We saw Georgia Carson Beck in that game. We got to hope he comes back to being Cinderella, it looked like he turned into a pumpkin. And you got to hope he's not a pumpkin, because if Miami starts shit in the bed, that hurts ND. So I don't know.
No, it does. And, we'll talk about the playoff picture a little bit more, but I was incredibly surprised to see that game pan out the way it did. She also had another upset pick of the week. I am going to find that. Johnny, go ahead and jump into the next game.
Wait, I just want to say one last thing about that Louisville-Miami game, and that was a good friend of me once said, if you have a take and it's wrong, don't say it's wrong. Just keep sitting on it, and eventually it'll be right. And that's how I kind of feel about Miller Moss. Early in the season, I harped a lot on quarterbacks with experience. I talked a lot about Drew Aller, who that didn't turn out well. I talked a lot about Garrett Nussmeier. That didn't turn out well. About how quarterbacks with experience might dominate this college football season. But if I twist that take with Miller Moss, it kind of might be right, because Miller Moss looked very poised. He's played so much college football, and it really showed against Miami. Just very poised in the pocket. And they didn't hesitate, which I loved about Jeff Brom. They got the ball to their best players, and that was Isaac Brown and Chris Bell. Like Chris Bell with 9 receptions. I don't know how many targets he had. Like they weren't trying to get too cute. They weren't trying to spread the ball out. It's like we have 2 dudes. We're going to give them the ball as many times as it takes to beat Miami. And I don't know. I was really impressed with the Louisville team. This is a Louisville team that could win the ACC. The ACC is now totally up for grabs. So that was a really fun game. But I hate
having to come back to the playoff picture, but it's going to create pure chaos where we're going to have undefeated in conference Georgia Tech with 1 loss Georgia, or even undefeated Georgia Tech with the opportunity to lose in the conference championship. And then what do you do? And then we almost have the exact same situation in the Big 12, and those are both nightmare situations for Notre Dame. They're also nightmare situations for Mizzou, Oklahoma, all those third, fourth, fifth ranked teams in the Big 10 and SEC. It's going to be problematic. They are banking on the ACC and the Big 10 sending 1, but if that's the case, we're screwed.
I'll tell you why it's a nightmare situation for Notre Dame is because last year the committee kind of set a precedent to when SMU lost Clemson in the ACC championship and they gave SMU another bid. Like that kind of set a precedent that like, hey, we're not going to punish you for losing on conference championship week. And ACC right now looks like a conference that only deserves 1. But yeah, what if Georgia Tech goes undefeated, they lose in the conference championship game to a Miami or a Louisville or like a Pitt or some like weird stuff happens and another team who probably wouldn't have got in wins it. Now they get that auto bid. Now Georgia Tech's sitting there and they're going to like put the gun to the committee and be like, hey, you didn't punish SMU last year. You better not punish us this year. Why should we even play a conference championship game if it's going to hurt us? So that's really going to mess with the numbers at the end of the season. That being said, let's move on to the next game. Awesome game.
I also have something to say after.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, no, go for it.
Championship.
Yeah.
I was thinking today, I had a long day of driving today. I had to drive 2 hours to and from work. And I was thinking to myself how join a conference. Notre Dame should join a conference. Marcus Freeman should join a conference. It's funny the way people bark at Notre Dame for having to join a conference, but no one ever barks about teams that don't make the conference championship that are still in the competition to make the playoffs, right? No one was arguing that Ohio State didn't deserve to be in last year, right? No one was arguing that Georgia, or bad example, that I'm trying to think of the other SEC teams, that got in that did not make the conference championship. Yet there's no barking about those teams that don't make the conference championship simply because they're in a conference. It just, that makes no sense to me. No sense.
I don't know. You're not going to get any sympathy because you're the only one who applies to. Like if this was happening to a lot of teams, people would be like, yeah, this is a problem. But like if it's one team, it's like, come on, just join. They're going through the nitty gritty of a conference schedule.
There should be some value to playing in the conference championship. There should be additional value to winning it, which is well established. But the problem the problem is that there is, I guess, no incentive on defined incentive on just making the game, right? Because we could look at a weird situation in the Big 12 where Texas Tech, let's say they run the tables, they have 1 loss, plays BYU again. Or let's say they play Utah again, right? They beat Utah, right? There's no incentive on making that game out of Utah because they know they're not going to get in unless they win. But, I've said it once and I've said it before. I don't think that there should be guaranteed locks for the conference championship because of how ugly this can get for the second place runner. And I think it's problematic a little bit because people are always just going to bark, why even play in a conference championship? And I think the conference championship should be more elaborate. It shouldn't just be a 1 game. The best 2 records in the conference just seems silly, right?
No, that rocks, dude. It rocks, though. That weekend of football, us sitting down, and you get
it is awesome. You get the ACC. I'm saying even more in depth, though, Johnny. I'm saying there should be more to winning the conference championship than a single game.
Yeah. No. I get it, but I just don't
play in almost a conference tournament.
No, you can't do a conference tournament and then the college football playoff. It would just take so much time. All I'm saying is
it's only 1 extra game.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Cut the season of the game short. Because all I'm saying is that this now establishes that there's a certain luck of the draw with your schedule in making the conference championship. That's undeniable. That is undeniable.
I just think
if you had the top 4 teams in your conference all play for the conference championship, then there is no doubt that the conference winner deserves to be there.
I just think no one else in the country right now is having this complaint besides Notre Dame fans, and that's why I just don't have any sympathy. It's like
I just think it's
just you guys. It's just you guys.
We get penalized for this, but
so join.
We're talking 8 teams, or excuse me, 7 teams that will make the playoffs that did not win their conference championship. Right? Of those 7, we're probably talking 4 didn't even make the conference championship. Right? For some reason, I'm drawing an entire blank. Let's see. College football playoff 2024.
It was only SMU.
It was what Texas.
Those teams deserve to be in there. If you look
at that's you can't say that though, because they didn't. Why? You know, it's counter argument that we're saying that like they deserve to be there. So does Notre Dame, just because they're not playing in that singular game of the season.
Well, they don't play in a conference schedule.
Their schedule is better than most conferences. Their schedule this year is just as hard as anyone in the ACC.
I'm just saying. You guys are the only one with this complaint. It's like hard to feel sympathetic. I think it's
stupid that it all comes down to
you do every other sport. Every other sport you join a conference. So just join it with this. Every other sport you guys have.
On to the next. I just don't think that we should be penalized from this extra week of football when there's other teams who are not getting penalized for it. Right? Like once again, I'll use Ohio State's record. No one complained that Ohio State or Tennessee. That's the other one. Ohio State nor Tennessee played in their conference championship last year, and no one batted an eye. But suddenly Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference championship, and the whole world burns.
You're not going to find any sympathy here. Like, I don't know. Just join a conference. It'd just be easier if you guys joined a conference.
It'd be easier. It's not better. It's not better.
It is better.
Would you rather see Notre Dame play Duke, Georgia Tech, Syracuse every year, or would you rather see them fly across the country and play USC, play Miami, play A&M, play Boise?
They would play Miami in an ACC schedule.
You shut up.
I'm just saying. Okay, let's move on. We could argue this the whole podcast, so let's just move on to the next game. Okay, so next game. Number 9, Georgia at home, 43. Ole Miss, number 5, Ole Miss, 35. My first take of this game, I think both these teams are national championship contenders. This was an awesome game to watch.
Yeah, it was. It's tough because everyone expects those Georgia games from 2020 and 2021, 2019, where they were letting up like 12 points a game. But just because they're not, you got to give them a certain amount of credit for coming in and winning in a really harsh environment, staying at home and defending their place in a really tough spot, with Ole Miss. And, I think they were barely the favorite in the game, if I remember correctly. But, they didn't, while their defense wasn't there, and I don't really know what's going on with that, you got to give them a lot of credit for keeping up. Gunnar Stockton put that team on their back. He's like the Baker Mayfield of college football right now.
He's just a winner right now. They find a way every week, and I think it's a common thing we say in the podcast. But the more they involve Zachariah Branch in this young receiving core, like they've got athletes out there. Sometimes they struggle getting them the ball, like they kind of did against Bama. But, man, they got guys on the outside, and their run game is always solid. This is a Georgia team. We're not used to seeing them win like this, like these high-scoring games. But it was awesome because I texted you in the middle of that game because I think Ole Miss scored a touchdown in their first 3 possessions. I was like, woof, this offense is incredible. But Georgia found a way to – in the middle of the third. Yeah, like Georgia found a way in that second half to kind of slow down Chambliss, but Chambliss looked awesome. But I think both these – teams like down the stretch are teams that could go on playoff runs, and we're not used to that at Ole Miss. We're used to Lane Kiffin having super talented teams that underperform. But I don't know. But I was super impressed by Ole Miss, even though they lost. Like they looked like they could kind of go the distance with a lot of great teams.
Yeah, I don't like to judge teams by games they lose personally. I just only evaluate them on the ones that they win. Kidding, of course. I'm incredibly impressed by Ole Miss. I think that this Georgia team is really good. They had arguably the hardest away schedule of all times last year. In the same with this year, their schedule is because of Florida and OU. Their schedule is being massively overlooked, but they have an incredibly hard schedule, and people aren't giving them enough credit just because they dropped that game to Bama, which was a 1-possession game. It was incredibly close, but these games that are close, you got to give teams a lot of credit for winning games very, very close. It is I think Georgia's a really good team. I think that they should be ranked higher. I think that that loss to Bama is really, kind of diminishing their abilities. And I think that close game with Tennessee where they really should have lost is really hurting them a bit.
Yeah, let's move on to those teams you just mentioned. Number 6, Alabama at home, 37-11, Tennessee 20. I'm getting a little scared about Bama. Can we talk about a guy that what a 180 Ty Simpson has had this year? They lose first game of the season. Ty Simpson isn't the guy. You and me both said it. Ty Simpson, not the guy. He's average. He's average. He's average. This is a guy that sat and waited at Bama. He was a Nick Saban guy. But now he's in the Heisman discussion. Like, this Bama team is starting to come to form and look like a contender.
Yeah, no, it was a dominating performance, through and through. I thought Tennessee had a couple opportunities to kind of close the gap, but they blew them with a block 6.
Yeah. The 100-yard pick 6 was insane.
Is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah. 100 yards.
It was ugly. That's a 14-point swing. It's really hard to win games when you do that kind of stuff. Tennessee's not the team we thought they were. I don't think that the season's over for them. I think that their path is still there. They just obviously need to win out. But I'm intimidated by Bama. I was harboring on the fact that they can't run the football. I still think that they should have lost to Mizzou, Bo Pribula. The moment was too big for him. It was so clear as day on that final drive. All he had to do was get 30 more yards in about a minute. And he couldn't do anything. He was so intimidated. But where I'm going with that is Bama was finally able to run the ball. They finally got, a running back and that kid that came back.
Jam Miller. Now it was Jam.
Yeah, I think he's averaging over 4.5 yards a carry now, which is great to see for them. They're intimidating. They're 100% a good team. That loss in the beginning of the year is going to mean nothing come playoff time. I think that they're the front runner for the SEC without a doubt in my mind. I think there's probably only one or two teams that can compete with them, and that's probably Georgia and
Ohio State, Indiana. I know. I said Indiana, just like it's
even in the SEC. I don't. I sit here and I say, look at A&M, and in my head I'm like, yeah, A&M's the third-ranked team in the country, and while they do have really good wins, they let Arkansas three points over the weekend.
Yeah,
Notre Dame dropped 56. And it's just one of those things. It's like, you can't win every single shootout. But I do think that, Bama is the new standard in the SEC for this season.
Yeah, I think like that game that we play a lot, and you were just kind of playing it like the Arkansas, ND, Texas A&M triangle there. Like, I think the SEC is a conference we're just not going to be able to play. I beat you by this much, so I should beat them. Because, like, you even just look at, like, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Vandy. Like, those teams have all beaten each other in such different ways. It's like a Rubik's Cube. Like, it's going to get really, really tough to judge these teams down the stretch. But moving on to the Big 12. What a game. Texas Tech, ASU. ASU, classic Kenny Dillingham, pulling off a great win, 26-22 against number 7 Texas Tech. My biggest thought after that game was just a real bummer for Tech. Just because this was a team that was all green lights go. It looked like they were going to run away with the Big 12. Now it's like, whoa, Big 12.
Yeah, they were 6-0 in every single game in terms of covering. So they covered the spread 6 out of their 6. It's remarkable.
Crazy.
You know what I thought that was for Kenny Dillingham?
What?
That was a marketing ploy. Like, that's all that was. He is saying, hey, I'm arguably one of the best 3 coaches out there. I should be the front runner for the Big 2. Possibly the Big 4. We'll get into those a little bit later, but was I wrong about ASU? I look at that Mississippi State game and I say, Arizona State, who you and I both had as our front runners in the Big 12 behind ISU and Texas Tech, is a serious contender. That Big 12, we talked about chaos a lot, and we use that word chaos in almost cannibalism at times. It's a good conference. There's not a team in the front 4 or 5 that I would be pissed to see in the playoffs. I'd love to see BYU. I'd love to see Cincy. I'd love to see Houston. I'd love to see Iowa State. I'd love to see, and the list goes on. I'd love to see Texas Tech and Arizona State. Like, there's 7 teams. It's probably one of the most relatively high-end front-loaded conferences that we have in college football right now.
They might not have a true number 1.
Right into the BYU-Utah game. That was a dominating performance by BYU. Old school football, very, very gritty. They're 6-0. They're
the Holy
sprinting towards the conference championship.
That's a great rivalry. People.
I don't think you're allowed to say that anymore, Johnny.
The Holy War, 100%. We are the Mormons versus the whatever.
I don't think so. They're trying to get that changed.
Oh wait, really? I didn't see that.
Yeah,
why don't they like that?
I think it's the war part.
Oh, come on. It's just a rivalry. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, there was an article saying it was inappropriate, but I think that's stupid. I think that Utah should have wore more of their red. I didn't love their sleeves, but boy, are those just cool color matchups and between the 50-50 split in the stadium and everything.
If that's the case, I can't believe it took us to week 9 of season 2 to get canceled. If that ends us right there. No, that was a great game. I really like Kyle Whittingham, so that was a bummer to kind of see him lose that game. But man, BYU's a fun team. You're right. This whole this whole Big 12 is gonna be a lot of fun to watch.
My concern with BYU is if they have to throw the ball though. Can they throw it if they get behind? I don't know if it's there. I don't know if they're a true playoff contender. I don't know if a lot of them are playoff contenders, but all I'm going to say is that the Big 12 is exciting. The rest of the season, we're going to see spreads under 5 points, which is crazy. So, I guess we can go back to using the word chaos because it's going to be a spider web. And, there's going to be teams in there that you're going to be like, wait, they only have one loss? Holy cow, like they're in second place. And, the Big Ten is doing the exact same thing to a different degree. We all know who the front runners are in terms of power rankings, but, there's a lot of carnage going on there.
No, the Big 12 is going to be a lot of fun. I liked what you said about Kenny Dillingham. That was a kind of like a marketing move. I would love to see him and Sam Levitt in the blue and white last year, but to go reverse, I think Matt Campbell has done the opposite. There's kind of a quick tangent, but like Kenny Dillingham's a guy whose stock is rising. Matt Campbell's a guy that would have been in a lot of people's mouths talking about new coaching positions, but ISU, you said they were our front runners for the Big 12.
Yeah,
man, it's been sad.
It is. And a lot of it comes down to the corners. They're for some reason in another, and you can't blame the coach for this, but you can kind of question what's going on behind the scenes when you have teams get injured to the degree that they get injured. Yeah. Is it their strength and conditioning? Is it their nutrition? Is it their practice prep? There's a lot of things that go into it. No one wants to see Alabama lose 5 games because they lost their quarterback, their entire starting line, their running back, their wide, and you start to wonder why, obviously there's an unluck of the draw, but you kind of wonder why. And it is unfortunate. And the reason that they're struggling so bad is because they're 2 all-pro corners are both out for the season now, just going to get ready for the NFL draft. But, I still think Matt Campbell is a front runner. He's done a great job over the last 5 years, even though he's been on the hot seat multiple times, hot seat and then the incredibly cold seat and then competing for a conference championship. It's been a weird ride. I still think he is in talks for a bigger program. I don't think he's going for the Big 4. I don't think he's qualified for the Big 4. And when I say Big 4, I'm talking Florida, Penn State, Auburn, LSU. I think all 4 of those, obviously 2 of those are available. The other 2 will be available very soon.
Florida State.
Florida State. You can't forget about his buyout.
I know, but I think they have the money down there. They have sneaky. Do you know they have Morgan & Morgan? Big Florida State people. Morgan & Morgan, the huge insurance. Yeah, they're Florida State people. They were going to help.
I thought he was a New Hampshire guy, to be honest.
No, but someone from Morgan & Morgan went to Florida State because they were rumored to be the people that were going to pay them out of the ACC. We'll see what happens when that comes. Let's go back to the SEC. Let's go Vandy 31, LSU 24. Man, this Vandy team's a bunch of dogs. They just
very well coached.
Yeah, Clark Leah.
A couple plays. Another statement win. I would not be surprised if Clark Lee left. Is it Leah or Lee?
I always say Leah. I think it's Leah, but not
I think there's an A at the end. I think that,
there is.
He's coaching a hell of a team. And there was a couple of plays where the scheme was better than even the execution, which I think is something to be said. The way they drew the tight ends right across, everyone was going to, is it Stowers? Is their big tight end?
Stowers. He's awesome. He's
and then they would throw it to the backup tight end who was wide open. A couple of really beautiful quarterback draws to the field. I'm going to say, I don't think that was a key win for Vandy. I think it's a great resume booster.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go and, put a Vanderbilt flag in my driveway because of this win. And, I think that this was a game that they should have won. They did an excellent job executing, and they are just solidifying more and more and more their presence as an SEC contender.
Yeah, I just think the SEC is so deep this year that you're right. This might not be a statement win, but I think a big thing in the SEC is just keep surviving. Keep surviving. That moves us to the next game. 16 Mizzou beating Auburn 23-17 in double overtime. Mizzou's a team that has an easier schedule when it comes to the SEC, but it's like you just got to. It's kind of like Vandy. You just got to survive these weeks. Like it was ugly, ugly, ugly. But Auburn's kind of a weird team. Super talented. Just don't have the guy quarterback. But like, I just think this season in the SEC is like, can we just keep stacking wins?
Yeah. I think, like we said, it's going to be so chaotic that you cannot use that transitive property of I beat who and you beat who and I beat A and you beat B type thing.
Yeah.
To the point where we have to evaluate them exclusively off who did they win against and who did they lose against. And we're not going to be like, oh, Auburn, or they only beat Auburn by a touchdown in double overtime. We're going to say they beat Auburn, right? Yeah. Oh, they only beat LSU by, this. Well, they beat LSU.
They won.
I'm with you 100% on that one. I think that this is going to be the season where it is exclusively your record. It's crazy to say. I think that both the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the SEC are so deep. I think they're all 6 really good teams deep where we're not going to be looking at losses. We're going to exclusively be looking at wins.
Yeah. Moving on. I'll let you kind of take the cake on this one. Notre Dame 34, USC 24. What'd you feel about this game?
I felt good. I felt really, really good. I thought that we got the ball to who we needed to get the ball to. I still want to see some deep ball presence out of Malachi Fields.
I love Malachi Fields.
I don't know why we're not getting him in more one-to-one situations. He's not as big as I thought he was. He's only about 6'3", but he's a solid body. But we are rolling on all fours right now. We are getting the ball, best 1-2 punch in college football, arguably the best in recent memory, with Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love. What they're able to do, Jeremiah Love having 228 yards offense by himself, or not even more than that, just rushing by himself, is remarkable. I think that our defense needs to come out hotter. The score was quickly 10-7 with, I think, 10 minutes left in the first. And I thought to myself, oh, this is going to be 55-50, or this might be a 63-60 game. And their defense quickly figured it out. They got pressured. They got interceptions. They got sacks, which is great to see. I'm still concerned a little bit about the D-line, but this is a great win. And I think that USC is a really, really good team. And I think we are going to see USC break up a season multiple times in the rest of the year. And when I say break up a season, I'm saying they're going to do the same thing that Florida did last year, where they knocked Ole Miss out of the playoffs and then they knocked LSU out of the playoffs, where USC could go and upset Oregon, could make a run at the – just hear me out. I think that they are built – they are built to get ahead, and they are built to stay ahead. And I think that it's going to happen at least once in the Big Ten this year. They're a really good team. I'm hoping for the sakes of Notre Dame that this happens.
I got 2 takeaways from this game. First off, I want to say congrats. That was an awesome win. Like, that was huge for Notre Dame. The second, that still brings my first thing is Notre Dame. I hate you guys so much because I feel like before the season we were like, Jeremiah Love's awesome. Prince is awesome. Malachi Fields is awesome. And it took you guys like 4 weeks to realize that. And that is what pisses me off about Notre Dame. It's like those first 2 weeks, how did we not, like, what was it? Was it the Miami or the Texas A&M game where Love had like
Miami? He had
four carries at the half.
Yeah.
And that's why I hate you guys. Cause it's like, dude, what are we doing? Like from a game plan perspective, what is going on when you have one of the best running backs in the country and we're just not giving him the ball? So that's why
I would like to believe there was a lot of RPO that was going more P than R.
I know. I'm just saying. No, I don't like Notre Dame because they just frustrate me. It's like, dude, before the season, I was like one of the biggest guys with Malachi Fields. I loved watching him at UVA last year. And it's like, I know you say like he's not the biggest guy, but he's still 6'3". He's still a jump ball guy. Still possession wide receiver. It's like, get him the ball. Stop force feeding that tight end. I don't know. That's what I just get really frustrated with Notre Dame. Second off, I have not been shy in the podcast. I don't love Lincoln Riley, and I'm not high on this.
I've had
USC
a 180
team.
on him for the record. I think I might be losing you. I do like him.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
I don't think he's at USC.
I don't think he's the guy. I don't know. I just don't think he has it anymore. Like, I don't know. Like, how many times? Oh, that would be awesome. That would actually be so sick.
He's Florida's next coach. I'm telling you.
I don't know. I'm not high on this USC team. I know people are riding them so big after that Michigan loss. I've been very down on Michigan. I don't think Michigan's a great team. And I know they beat Michigan. No. Everyone's like, let's anoint them. But no, I don't think USC is a great team. I think Lincoln Riley keeps wasting great quarterbacks. He had Caleb Williams. Jordan Maev is awesome, and they're just going to waste his time at USC. They've always got great receivers. Lemon's the best receiver in the country, and they just waste offensive talent. And I don't know. I just don't think this is a great team from a defensive perspective. I think they've got talent on offense. I think they're going to waste it. And I don't know. I just think it's always going to be the same. It's the same deal with Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, I think it's just tough to recruit big, strong defensive players down to USC. And that's the God's honest truth. I just don't think that they have what it takes. I think it's a recruiting thing. I think that we're going to see USC and Lincoln Riley continue to improve. I'm telling you, I think they ruined someone's season this year. I don't know who it is or how it is, but I'm just telling you, I do truly believe that they are a better team, where I think that they could end the year with 2 losses, and then they are arguing for a playoff spot as that 4th Big Ten team.
You want me to tell you the schedule? Do you want me to tell you the schedule? I got it up right now. They play Nebraska, they'll win. Northwestern, they'll win. Iowa, I could totally see them losing to Iowa. That would be the funniest thing ever. They're going to get their doors ripped off by Oregon, and then they end the season with UCLA. So they're going to end the season with 3 losses.
You're talking they need to obviously go undefeated to make the playoff. But let's say they go in they beat Oregon. Technically, now they are ahead of Oregon in terms of.
Yeah. That's a huge what if. If they beat Oregon, they're in the playoff, but they're not going to beat Oregon. Do you want to make the bet? I'll make the bet with you, whatever you want. I'll bet whatever you want.
I made a bet with someone recently about him having to wear a wig on the podcast. And if Indiana beats.
Yeah, we'll see if they beat Penn State, and I will be the first person down there. You think I don't have we'll I live in Salem. You don't think I have a spirit Halloween within spitting distance of me? Yeah, I'm going to get the best wig if Penn State loses that game. But I'll tell you one thing. Oregon's going to beat USC. I don't care what we bet. I'll bet anything. I'll go double. Go ahead.
Let me know what the bet is, and I will do it.
Okay, awesome. That'll be next podcast. We'll come up with that because that game's not for a couple weeks. Okay. The last game I had written down, let's not talk about it. It was Texas, Kentucky. It was an overtime game. Arch Manning looks so bad. So
Texas is terrible. I'm embarrassed. I said it in the beginning of the year. I said something that sticks with me a lot that I keep reflecting on as, a podcaster, is that it's bold of us to assume just because they're returning a lot of players and that they made a run in the playoffs that they're going to be just as good, if not better. And, there's 4 really good examples of that, 3 for that point and then 1 against, where Ole Miss is a better team this year with less talent, with less returning players and less experience. But then Penn State, Clemson, in Texas are the exact opposite, where they're absolutely terrible and they're returning everyone and their mother. Yeah, I'm not even going to waste my breath on Texas. That game was a absolute yawn. I was hoping they would win because it's going to make, Texas A&M's win against them that much better for Texas A&M come the end of the year. It's going to make Vandy's win over Texas that much juicier in 2 weeks. Texas stinks. Texas stinks. I don't know why we're handing the crown to Sark. He does nothing but make, inspiring teams that make me want to take a nap. There's nothing special about them.
Yeah, no, that was a bummer. But we can move past week 8 because we got I don't know, we don't have a great week 9 slot, but all those weeks, we always say those weeks were nothing. Yep. You don't really
I think this week is underrated. I think there's a lot of really, really good football, and just because the spreads are starting to get tighter and tighter. I want to talk about the AP poll before we jump into anything anything yet, and then I want to give you the floor for as long as you need for our State of the Union.
Okay, let's go. AP poll.
I think the AP poll, and as our listeners know at this point, is absolutely preposterous, is closing the gap to becoming a better and better poll as time comes on. And that's just indicative of a better sample pool, but it just goes to show that we should be using the sample that we have from each of these teams all year long and not just week 1 or week 2. There's a couple that I think that are still kind of bad. LSU should not be a top 25 team. They should not.
No chance. I agree.
No key wins. They, have 2 losses. They're not a good team. Arizona State should be much higher than 24. They just knocked off a top 10 team, and they're what, 24? That's embarrassing. Yeah. They should be a top 20 team. You've done it in the past. It's, this still applies here. I don't think Oklahoma's a good team. I don't know why they're there. That that loss against Texas is why they're not even in the top 10. But I keep going back and saying that, I don't know what OU has done besides beating overrated Michigan and then beat Auburn. There's nothing impressive about that team. Auburn looks worse every single week, so I'm questioning a little bit why we're valuing that one. And then I do think that there are some good teams. I think Bama and Georgia are perfectly placed. And then I love where BYU is. I think that their win against Utah, they're not quite a top 10 team. I think they're just very, very perfect at 11. Like I said, I think the poll is getting more and more accurate. I think there's still extreme bias towards the SEC, and the tail end of some of the previous polls is still apparent, just like LSU being in the top 25 is simply because they were ranked 10 last week. They don't deserve that.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So, Johnny, I'm going to zip my mouth for the next few minutes. I am going to be taking notes because I'm going to probably disagree with a lot of what you have to say. But I also want to talk about what you have to say. So the state of college football, give our listeners a little bit of backstory. A lot has been going on.
Yeah.
We have coaching jobs open. We have playoff pictures. Go ahead.
First off, I just want to say this. I just want to point out what I'm wearing. I'm wearing my Penn State quarter zip. Got a big S on there right now. Because when I was a kid, my dad, Jack Jones, the GOAT, said something to me that always stuck with me. It's like, after your teams lose or after something disappointing happens, you still got to rep them. You got to wear the hat the next day. You got to wear the shirt the next day because loyalty is everything. You got to stick by your teams. That always kind of stuck in the back of my head. In times of troubles, you can't run off because that's what posers do. They quit on their teams. They leave. And I've done that with all my sports. The Red Sox. My whole life is either we win the World Series or we're the last in the East. And you know what? I always put the cap on. Celtics, the Jared Sullinger years. Dark times. Still wearing the C. Pats, Mac Jones. Some bad times. But guess what? I had the number 10 jersey. And guess what? I do tape over May now because we're back. AFC East, we're so back. That being said, Oregon, my other college football team. I watched Ezekiel Elliott run it down our face in the national championship, and I was still wearing the O the next day. That's the big thing is you got to stick by your teams. You earn the wins in college football just like any other sport. Sticking by some really bad times when you officially make it to that mountaintop, you earn it. And that's why it feels so good is because you were with those in times of troubles. The next thing I want to say is I want to give James Franklin a lot of credit. I know he's getting clowned right now, and I know everyone hates him, and I know he was booed off the field. I was there. Like, it was bad. It was really, really bad. But I don't think James Franklin gets enough credit because, I think Bill O'Brien gets a lot of like kind of that the face for coming in after the scandal. But he was only there 2 years. James Franklin came in when Penn State was in the mud. And look at SMU. SMU was the belle of the ball in the 80s. They get the death penalty. We don't hear from them for 40 years. Penn State had the opportunity to be like SMU. Huge, nasty scandal happens, and they were in the mud. And I think a lot of people were running away from the program, and James Franklin stepped up and brought them back to relevancy. In year 3, he won the Big Ten, and man, that was awesome. Saquon, Mike Gesicki, Blacknell, Chris Godwin, Tracy McSorley. That was so fun beating Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. And I think that kind of told people, hey, Penn State's back. Come. Send your kid to Penn State. Give us your talent. And do you know what we're going to do? We're going to get your kid playing on Sundays. And that's one thing he did. He did a tremendous job at developing NFL talent, of being a contender in the Big Ten. And I know he didn't always win. He didn't win the big games. But guess what? He brought Penn State back to national relevancy. And when everyone wants to shit on him, I just want to say he did so much for the program. That all being said, it was time to fire him. I agree. He just – with the amount of talent he brought back and the expectations in the season we had last year, it was very evident in the UCLA game, in the Northwestern game. He had lost the locker room. And the expectation at Penn State is to win the Big Ten and eventually the national championship. And we gave him 10 years, and he just couldn't consistently do that. And that's why I think you got to cut him loose. And I have tremendous amount of trust in Pat Kraft, the athletic director. If you look at Pat Kraft, he's an absolute winner. He's won at every level he's been at. You know, he was part of that Matt Rule nucleus that turned Temple football into a ranked team for a couple of years. Then he went to BC, won a couple of national championships, got their programs turned around. And since he's been at Penn State, he has won, I've got it written down, 4 team national championships, double-digit individual national championships. He's won 24 Big Ten titles. He's seen a hockey team, which was a club team 10 years ago. Now they've got the number 1 recruiting class in the country. They're the number 5 team in the country. Lacrosse is making the Final Four at a pretty regular level. The women's volleyball team won last year. So that's what's being said. Pat Kraft's a winner. I really trust Pat Kraft when he pulled the trigger on that coach, on letting Franklin go. And then I'm excited to see what he does in this coaching hire. I think it's time. I also want to say to people who are clowning us for firing Franklin, it's like, dude, I heard for the past 5 years, fire Franklin. He's not the guy. And now I feel like a lot of those same people are like, well, maybe it wasn't the time to fire Franklin. Screw off if you're one of those. Yeah, that's crazy, dude. You're a clown. Yeah. You're a clown. You can't be the fire Franklin guy, and then when you fire him, oh no, that was too early. That's the thing that pisses me off. It's like
I'll voice my opinion after. Continue.
I just think you got to keep the same energy. You can't switch now after, because that's, it's hindsight's 2020. And I've got a couple other things. We went all in and we fell short, and that's a bummer, but guess what? At least we went all in. I've loved this team my whole life since I was a kid. I've loved this team through the scandal, through everything else. I'm going to keep loving this team. That being said, Penn State, I think, is in a really good position come this coaching cycle, because one thing that will, in this new era of NIL, that will always play is money. And Penn State has so much money. The Pegula family, who owns the Buffalo Bills, is funding a lot of this buyout. I think that's going to travel. I think Penn State, like being in the facilities, has top 10 facilities in the entire nation. I think the Big Ten's in a fun spot right now, because right now with the SEC, where everyone's a contender, the Big Ten's pretty top heavy. Penn State has the money, the facilities, everything for to get recruits, to get a great coach, to bring people in. They've got the tradition. I think they're going to be very competitive in this coaching cycle. And now I'm at the point where I'm excited. I've got a bunch of guys written down that I think would be great coaches. A couple guys that come to mind, head coaches that have been head coaches. I really like Clark Leah. I love Kenny Dillingham. That's my guy. I really want Kenny Dillingham. I also like Brent Keane, Elijah Drinkwitz. And I think all those guys are in places where Penn State would be a step up, just from a facilities and a money perspective. Also, old friends that could come back are Manny Diaz and Matt Rule. They both have heavy connections to Penn State. I don't love Matt Rule. I know he's been a winner at a lot of places, but I just don't love him now. Manny Diaz is a guy, though, I think that really should be circled. I think he got a pretty raw deal with the sanctions at Miami, but I think he's a great coach.
It's bold of you to assume. I just have to interject. I'm sorry. I can't bite my tongue any longer. It's bold of you to assume that Matt Rule, Manny Diaz, Kenny Dillingham are coming into Penn State and doing anything better than what James Franklin did.
I'm not saying they are, but I'm saying we got to give someone a chance. Would us not want to hire someone?
No, I just question a little bit that people are expecting more out of Penn State than what is really feasible.
No, I never said no. I never said that. I think it's going to be a building process. But I think also you were the number one guy, Frank. You were the number one person who said to me, Franklin's not the guy. So what do you want us to get? We gave him, no. Let me just say one thing.
Yeah.
We gave him 10 years. Do you want us to give him 20 or 30 or 40 or 50? At some point, you got to start over. And guess what? If we don't win 10 games next year, well, I know Franklin did, but also Franklin didn't win 10 games his first year. You got to give this – that's another thing. You got to give this next guy time to build. And I think with the money and the facilities, they'll be able to do that. A couple other people that come to mind. Group of Five hopes. Like these guys that might not have the history, but – are pretty big is John Sumrall from Tulane and Eric Morse. I think those two, I think Eric Morse especially, he doesn't really have the backing to get this level of a job, but Eric Morse is a guy that I want all these listeners to watch out for because he's going to be a hell of a head coach. He's the next guru out there one day. He's done a great job at North Texas. He's been linked to Patrick Mahomes. He was part of the Cam Ward's rise. Like this is a guy that knows quarterbacks. He's a great offensive mind. He's a guy to look out for. Coordinators, I love. These two guys that if Penn State hires, I'm going to be really excited for. I love Will Stein out of Oregon, and it would take a lot, but I love Brian Hartline out of Ohio State. Yeah. I think both those guys are chomping to get a head coaching job. And then hilarious hires. I don't want this to happen, but hilarious would be Saban, Urban, or John Gruden. I think those guys are getting linked to every job in the world. I don't think it's serious, but if you just open up any social media app, you'll see those guys for all the head coaching hires. I know you took notes on that thing. I know that was pretty long-winded. Those are all my thoughts I've kind of been stewing on. So what are your reactions?
It's tough. I was the first one to say that he should be fired, and I've been saying it for a long time. And I've done a lot of reflecting, and I just don't think that it is fair is not the right word because college football is not fair. College football is brutal. My concern is that you're looking at a year in the AD should have taken a step back and said, listen, it's very likely that Florida, FSU, Auburn are all going to be open. Then you have the unlikelihood, but still possible, OU could be open, LSU could be open, right? You have plenty of jobs that could be open. You're going to say that, you're a fan, you're going to believe that Penn State is an elite place to be. I think that the elite talent is thinner than it may seem, but I also feel like it's not going to be the first pick of a lot of people. And I feel like
I'm going to throw a
James
flag
Franklin
on that.
Is on a high. He's a high spectrum coach. He is not an elite level coach. There's coaches out there who have done it who I think he's better than. Right? I think James Franklin's better than Ed. Coach Orgeron. I think James Franklin's better than Gus.
Oh yeah, totally. I think they're
I think that it's a combination. I don't think that James Franklin can ever not get there. Right. I think that there just needed to be a lot that falls into his lap. And I think wherever he goes next, a conference championship is going to happen in the first couple of years. My concern is I don't disagree with the firing. I think that he should have been fired. I don't think that it should have been midseason. A lot of what happened, yes, he lost the locker room, which is crazy. And I'm curious what was kind of happening behind the scenes.
But he did
that. We're talking we are one singular play away from beating Oregon and being the number 2 ranked team in the country. And then suddenly now we can't beat Iowa on the road. And it's tough. I don't think that this is as prestigious of a job as you may believe it is.
Crazy. That's insane, dude. From a money perspective,
that's the only thing you keep coming back to is money.
No, facilities. Facilities and tradition. What jobs out there are more? What jobs right now out there are more elite?
I think Florida is more elite. I think LSU will be more elite.
First of all, I'm going to throw a flag on it that Oklahoma and LSU haven't fired their coaches. You can't just throw that job out there. Just because you hate Brian Kelly doesn't mean they're going to fire them. I
predicted James Franklin be fired. My next prediction is
but now you're going back saying they shouldn't have fired him. Like you can't.
No, I'm just saying. I think it was brash. I think it was brash.
No, but you can't.
I'm not saying they shouldn't have fired him.
You can't do that.
I'm saying it was brash. And the reason I'm saying that is that the grass is not always greener on the other side. The reason I'm saying that is that I am concerned for Penn State.
I'm not.
In the exact same way Florida was, everyone was like, why fire Dan Mullen? How do we know that Billy Napier is better?
It's so different, and because we've talked about it.
It's
no, just listen. It's so different.
Listen.
No. It's different because James Franklin had 10 years. And he never did it. Whereas Dan Mullen had 2 or 3 awesome seasons, 1 bad season, they fired him. That's so much shorter. That firing is so much different.
It's crazy what we're saying he didn't do, right? He won the Rose Bowl, right?
Dude,
then he won the Big Ten 1 year. He was one. Yeah, I understand that. All I'm saying is that
he won the Big Ten 10 years ago.
He didn't do it. There's so limited amounts of coaches who can truly say that they've done it, that my concern is that none of them are going to leave, or none of them are going to come for this job. And we're going to be in the same conversation when you and I are 38 and 39.
No, I'm just saying, I don't know. How many years are you going to give Franklin? You give him 20? Because at some point, you got to start over. And I'm not saying they're going to win the national championship next year. I'm saying 5 years. You said everything against this. This is crazy. You got to stand by a take.
Oh,
you got to stand by a take. You can't just say fire Franklin. Now we fired him.
I can't even talk. All I'm saying is that the firing midseason was brash. That's undeniable.
No, they lost the locker room. Nope, I disagree.
The buyout is immense. I think that they're setting themselves up for failure, and I also don't think they're beating anyone.
That's not the money's not the issue, though. We have money. Who cares?
I thought the State of the Union was going to be about college football, not just the Penn State. But
I told you,
I am concerned for you, and this is my God's honest truth. I'm concerned for you that you are going to get an extremely disappointing hire, where it's going to be Matt Rule, and you're going to be extremely disappointed at a 7-4 season every single year. It's going to be Alex Golesh, who's not ready yet.
Dude, Alex Golesh is a good coach. Don't shit on Alex Golesh. Also, you said someone
7 and 6 in the last 2 years, for the record.
Dan Mullen. I would love Dan Mullen. That was the name you just said. I forgot to mention him.
There's one name I'm incredibly surprised you didn't bring up.
Who?
Joe Brady.
Oh, yes. We talked on the phone about that. How did I forget about Joe Brady? Oh, the Joe Brady
should be the first call. I'm glad you didn't say Marcus Freeman on there. And I think that and I'm not saying I don't think Marcus Freeman would be a great fit. I think Marcus Freeman is very similar to James Franklin, very defensive minded. Very quality, low penalized team. The reason that I don't think that Matt Rule or Marcus Freeman would do well in this situation is, and I'm going to say something, Penn State football was boring this year, right?
I don't know if Marcus Freeman won the national championship.
I'm not going to
do it. I don't know if he can.
I don't know if he can. Brother, it's been 3 years.
Okay.
We made the natty.
I'm just saying, you didn't win it. You didn't win it.
It was a 1 possession game. Nonetheless,
that's crazy okay. You're like Kurt Signetti. That Notre Dame Indiana game was so close. I'm saying that. That's the same thing.
All I'm saying is that their next hire needs to be an exciting offensive minded person.
I'm gonna be so excited for the next hire. If it's someone boring, you better bet that's the fan I am. I'm gonna be waving the flag. If it's Matt Rule, I hope it's not. If it is, give me the Matt Rule hat. Whatever that looks like, I'm wearing it.
You're telling me. You're telling me.
I'm rooting my ass off.
You're telling me, hand in the air, that you are excited if they hire Matt Rule.
Guess what? I'm excited for Penn State football. You don't tell you okay. You know about fandom. You loved Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. You loved Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. Now you hate him. It's like that's what we do as fans. If he's our guy, he's our guy. And you know what? I'm going to be that guy next year. But also, we have multiple segments to go. We can't just
We do. This is going to be a long pod. I just want to go say one more thing is that Penn State has to knock out this coach recruiting process. They need to get the best coach in the game. I think they have to go a legendary coach. I don't think there's anyone in coaching right now who is a big enough name that can soothe the tensions within that team and that fan base. I think everyone's buying into OSU and Oregon and Indiana that it's going to be incredibly hard. I thought it was funny how Sig he signed an extension just days after you said he would never not leave Indiana for Penn State. Just saying.
I didn't say never. I just said no. My text to you was they should make the call. I never said he would leave. Also, question. You said they need a legendary hire, but you said Joe Brady. Yeah. I don't know if Joe Brady's a legend. I think he's a great coach.
No,
I want Joe Brady. I would
say he's not a legend like Urban or Nick or Jake.
That's crazy
John
calling him a legend.
He was the offensive coordinator on the best college football team of all times.
So Ed Orgeron's a legend?
I already acknowledged that Ed Orgeron was not the reason they won. I've been very, very public about Joe Brady's involvement with that team.
Switching on. I feel like you keep switching.
Okay, give me a moment to summarize. Give me a moment to summarize.
My neck, man. I just feel like you keep switching on these.
Give me a second to summarize them.
Okay.
I think that this is my on the air final take. Your neck or whatever.
I love the final take out of you.
Penn State is in big trouble, and they do not realize the trouble that they're in is that they're going to have an incredibly hard time finding a coach that fits the buckets that they're looking for. They're going to have an incredibly hard time recruiting the coaches that they want. I think 1, 2, and 3 are all going to say no. And then
I gave you a list of like 10. I'd be happy with. I don't care about 1, 2, and 3.
What?
I don't care about 1, 2, and 3. I gave you like 10 guys I like. If we get one of those guys, I'm going to be hyped. I don't know. Like that's a thing. It's not just about.
That's a coward take, Johnny, to say that you would be excited for someone.
Dude, you're a coward for flipping on all these takes. You're flipping everything you're saying.
No, I'm not. I've already acknowledged that I'm giving a summarized take.
I don't even know what that means. That means you're just changing your old take.
No, it's not. It means I'm taking everything, I'm funneling it into one final.
So confusing.
Oh, good Lord. All I am saying is that I think that Penn State is in the back of people's heads in terms of coaching recruits. I think that oh my Lord. On to the next. I think that you are going to be incredibly disappointed in the hire that they pick. I think you're going to be incredibly disappointed by their recruiting. Okay. They're going to be incredibly disappointing when they lose to Michigan, OSU, Indiana, and Oregon consistently for the next 10 years. I'm not saying James Franklin was the guy. I am not saying that. What I am saying is that I think truly from the bottom of my heart, there is a limit for majority of teams in that we've gotten spoiled to assume that Penn State is just going to have that random 1 year that Michigan had. Right? Like no one was.
Michigan didn't have a random 1 year. Michigan did not have a random 1 year. That's wrong. What do you mean they made the
college football playoff? They had the same exact thing as Penn State, Johnny.
No, dude.
They were super close multiple years in a row, and then they finally got over.
Yes, so I'm saying they didn't have a random 1 year. Michigan built something within like 10 years, and then it culminated.
And then they couldn't get to the top. Is what I'm saying.
They didn't have a random 1 year. They were a good team for like 5 years, and then they ended up winning the.
In the grand scheme of things, it was though. What I'm saying is that year was really, Johnny. They were building on the program that they had developed, right?
Yeah, so that's not 1 year. That's not a 1 year.
1 year. It's the same thing that Ohio State had. Is they were building on that 1 year, and then they finally had that final year. Random was a bad word.
Ohio State hasn't a 1 year either. Ohio State's been good the past like 10 years. They're good every year. They're not a random 1 year too.
They have all those years. If you look at it like a bar graph, they have all those years that are really good, and then they have that one that's really stands out, and then all the rest.
I don't know though. They make the playoffs like every year.
Yes,
I'm confused about the analogy. No, I'm being serious.
I'm gonna delete this pod.
Okay, that's fine if you do. I'm confused about the analogy. Okay, let's move.
No. I want to say this is that it's bold of people to assume that even if you build onto a year, you're going to build enough to get to a national championship. It is very hard to build to a team to be consistently good. It's incredibly hard and even more difficult to build to a team that is consistent, winning 10 games a year, and then finally gets the national championship. Okay. I think people are looking at it that it's much too easy, and that a simple coaching change is going to be the difference between having a 10-win season and a national championship. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I just think I love James Franklin, but we gave him 10 years. It's time for the change. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying we're going to win the national championship next year. I'm just saying I'm excited for this next chapter. That's what I'm saying. But it is what it is. We disagree. I hope Notre Dame wins the national championship this year. I really do. I really hope they win it.
I think they will.
If not, it's going to be tough. It's
that's crazy.
You lose Jeremiah. I don't know after that.
We're recruiting at a top 5 level, just for the record.
Yeah, that's worked the past 20 years.
Penn State's number 1 running back is going on his official tour to Notre Dame next week. So
I know. I hope he commits there, and I hope you guys win it like every year.
What is this reverse psychology that you're doing? Because I'm about to drive down and punch you in the head.
I'm just saying I hope you guys win it this year. It'd be awesome. It'd be so, dude, my grandfather would be so happy. It'd be awesome. Okay, you want to move on to the preview?
Yeah, let's move on to the preview. I'd like to do that. Yep. All right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 really good games this year. I'm going to read them off very, very quickly. We have Ole Miss is at OU. OU is a 5.5 point favorite. UCLA is heading to Indiana, 25.5 point dog there. Just thought that was an interesting game. UCLA is one of the hottest teams in college football right now. USF is heading to Memphis. This would probably be a pick 'em if Memphis didn't drop that game last week. Memphis 100%. Is a 4.5 point dog. Bama is heading to South Carolina. South Carolina is a 12.5 point dog. Bama is known to drop a game here and there under Kalen DeBoer. Is this the one? Mizzou is heading to Vandy. Vandy is a 2.5 point favorite. A game that is definitely circled on Vanderbilt's schedule. BYU is heading to Iowa State. Iowa State's a field goal favorite here. Illinois is heading to Washington. Washington's a 4-point favorite. Explain that one to me. Texas is heading to Mississippi State. Mississippi State is a 7-point favorite. A&M is at LSU. LSU is a field goal underdog at home at night in Death Valley.
Let's do it.
Ole Miss heading to OU. This one makes no sense. I think that Ole Miss is going to drop 45. This is such an easy pick. I'm assuming this is yours. Pick of the
my
week.
Cheesecake. Yep.
This is my cheesecake. There's no surprise there simply because I think there's no shot that OU keeps up, and I don't see a world where OU can stop Ole Miss.
No, I totally agree. I think Trinidad Chambliss, this offense is so fun to watch. They spread the ball around. I think this is a good season for Oklahoma. I was surprised when you mentioned them and the potential to be potentially part of the coaching carousel because I thought Venables has done a good job this year. I think it's a little QB dependent with John McCear.
His back end of the season is incredibly hard. And if they realistically could drop 4 out of the next 5, and if they do that, it's going to be very, very hard to keep him here.
Yeah. That being said, I love Ole Miss. They're my Cheesecake Factory pick of the week. Book it. Let's get another cheesecake.
Another cheesecake or next pick?
No. I meant just me getting another win there. Go for the next pick. Yeah, sorry.
I'll be pissed. You're currently at 6 points for the cheesecake. If I lose again this week, I think I am going to just start fading myself. UCLA heading to Indiana. This one is simply exciting just because UCLA is one of the hottest teams in football. They are, completely turn their team around somehow, some way, the exact opposite of what some other teams are doing in the nation. They're 4-0 in the last 4. I love to see it. With that being said, give me Indiana minus 25.5. I think this could be a letdown spot, but I don't see that being the case. I see Indiana rolling. Fernando Mendoza, it just solidifies himself as the Heisman.
This is a tough one. I'm going to take Indiana. I kind of wanted to take UCLA. I think that's a ton of points. I think this is Sig's bread and butter, just beating on bad teams. So I'm going to take him.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Until he proves us wrong, he doesn't always cover, but he does beat them down. USF is heading to Memphis. Memphis is a 4.5 point dog. Last week I probably would have taken Memphis. I loved what USF did to North Texas. That offense is deadly. Very quarterback centric, but I love them at 4.5. Give me all that.
Give me Memphis with the points. I think this is a bounce back week for them. I think this is a statement game that they're still a great team. They're still in the running for the group of 5.
Bama going to South Carolina. I don't think South Carolina has the offensive prowess to get this game done, but I do see that they could run the ball and give a little bit of fits. I think 12.5 is a bit stiff here. I'm going to take the 12.5. I think that this game could be close heading into the 4th, and it's a squeeze game for Bama.
All season I've been a hater of South Carolina. So I'm going Bama with the points. I think this is a classic Kalen DeBoer is going to run it up game. I'm not a believer in Lenore Sellers. I'm not a believer in Frank Beamer. No, Shane Beamer. Sorry, his dad Frank Beamer ball. They're so odd, dude. His days at VT was so sick. That being said, I think Bama is one of the best teams in the country. I hate to say it. I don't like Bama. Yeah. I think they beat the hell out of South Carolina. I think they've been extremely disappointing this season.
So we have Mizzou heading to Vandy. Vandy is a 2.5-point favorite. I thought Vandy would have been a 5-point underdog. So I'm very surprised to see this. I think it really comes down to the fact that they beat LSU last week. Vandy controls their own destiny, right? They have one loss in their schedule. They have Tennessee. They have obviously Mizzou. They have Texas. I think they can afford to drop one. They can't afford to drop two. I don't think this is one that they drop. I think that they cover the 2.5. I think that they continuously come down on Mizzou, and their defense is suffocating. They really run to the ball. They're really physical. I think they get after the quarterback immensely. Mizzou's a really good football team, but I just think they're missing that superstar on the offensive side. In the wide receiver core in particular. I like Vandy here, but I would not be surprised if Mizzou dropped the hammer on them.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of things you just said. I am going to go on the opposite side. I'm going to take Mizzou. I think this is a Mod Hardy game. I think they're going to run the hell out of the ball, and I think Bo's been good. He hasn't been great, but I think he's going to do just enough. Play complementary football. Lean on the run, and I think he'll do just enough in the passing game to beat Vandy. I love Diego Pavia. I think they're absolute winners, but I don't like them when they're favorited. I think they're totally an underdog team.
Yeah, they're totally an underdog team, but I love what they do in the red zone. And when teams can score touchdowns in the red zone, 7s, not 3s, as an offense, it is incredibly impressive. And Vanderbilt is really, really good on third down, and they're really good in the red zone. And that's two qualities that I absolutely love out of an offense. I don't care if you score, 30 points or 300 points a game. If you can convert third downs, you can convert in the red zone, you are going to be a really tough football team to beat. BYU is heading to Iowa State. This line makes no sense. Iowa State is a 2.5-point favorite here. Give me BYU. Stretch that to 10, and I'm still taking BYU.
Yeah, give me BYU. I think Iowa State's a dead team.
Yeah,
I'm mad at season. I'm mad at myself because early in the season I hated Rocco Becht. I fell into the trap of believing in him, and they let me down.
They did. Illinois heading to Washington. Illinois tends to do well in these situations. Washington is a good team that just isn't performing the way they think they should be. Jed Fish, great coach, another coach that is definitely in the running for a lot of really big jobs. I would not be surprised if he went to Florida State, not be surprised if he went to Auburn. But I'd like Illinois here, especially as an underdog. I don't think that they only cover, but I do think that they win this game.
Yeah, I'm riding Illinois. I've been high in Illinois all season. They've been a little disappointing, but I think this is a good spot for them.
We got Texas at Mississippi State. Texas, terrible game against Kentucky. I don't know if that was a letdown spot. I don't know if it's a look ahead spot. I think they're just terrible. I like Mississippi State here +7. I would probably sprinkle the money line, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm going Texas. This is a hold your nose pick. I don't believe in Arch Manning, but do you know what I do believe in? That Texas defense. I think they're really, really good. I think they're suffocating. I think they'll suffocate that Mississippi State offense, and hopefully they can score enough to win. Like, it's going to be a gross game. I think it's going to be like 2013 or something.
We have A&M heading to LSU. I think this is Mike Elko's biggest test as a coach of A&M. I think that he has had this one circled on his calendar since the day that he arrived in College Station. This game is incredibly big. And I mean that from a lot of different standpoints, from the race in the SEC to his legacy in A&M. They are two teams that hate each other. They're two teams that are almost identical in terms of identity. I love A&M in this spot. I think they're going to score all day against LSU. I don't see LSU scoring nearly as much as they need to. I thought that Nuss is finally starting to look better, and the offense is starting to actually develop, but I think it's just a little bit too late. Give me A&M.
What was the spread again? Sorry, I didn't have this one right.
2.5 towards A&M.
2.5?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's too close. Vegas knows something. I'm going on LSU. I think this is a classic spot here. I think think Brian Kelly and Nuss just kind of get one here. I don't know. I'm not super high in A&M. I think their offense is awesome. I don't love their defense. I don't love A&M's
but
defense.
But then again, LSU's offense isn't overpowered to be that scared of. Like if it was A&M Ole Miss, I'd be a lot more concerned. LSU's got nothing special. They got some talented wide receivers, but that's about it. My Cheesecake Factory pick of the week is Northwestern +7. I think that this team is actually really deceiving. I think it's actually a really, really stout team. I think Nebraska is really after their really gross loss last week. I think that Northwestern can pull the upset.
Yeah, I'm going to go Nebraska here. I think they're just a little too talented for Northwestern, but it'd be huge if you won this. Then we're like neck and neck for Cheesecake.
Yeah, we'd be incredibly close. All right, Johnny. So we have our haters picks of the week. We have our parlay pick of the week. And then is there anything I'm missing?
No, you're good. Want to do parlays first? I got mine. I got 10 to win 133. That's plus 1230. It's all money lines. You might hate on this, but I like Ole Miss to beat Oklahoma. I like Mizzou to beat Vandy, and I like BYU to beat Iowa State. All money line pays you 10 to win 133. I think the hardest game of that slot is going to be Mizzou Vandy. I think that BYU is definitely going to beat Iowa State, and Ole Miss definitely going to beat Oklahoma. I think that's going to be a grit your teeth, one of the trenches game against Vandy, but I think Mizzou can do it. So that's pretty good payout there.
Yeah, no, I like it. I'm on the opposite side of that. I have plus 730 here, so 10 wins you 73. I got Ole Miss money line, Vanderbilt money line, and A&M money line. I don't see how this loses. I'm incredibly trusting in Vanderbilt at home. I do love A&M on the road. I don't think that they have anything to worry about. And there's something I don't know about Ole Miss that is making me a little bit confused.
Yeah.
But that is a parlay that I intend to be betting. All right, haters picks of the week. So we have two friends that are our biggest haters. They provide some interesting insight, some awful picks. And I would like to just read a quick, and I'm going to paraphrase here, a text from our friend Keith, who claims he is 4-0 in his best bets of the week. He is including Duke as winning last week because that game was fluky as hell.
So funny.
His best bets this week: Iowa State -2.5. LSU takes down A&M. It's a must-win for Brian Kelly in LSU to remain in playoff contention. Ain't nobody going into Death Valley at night and winning. Not even 2020 Bama.
Wow.
He likes Mississippi State +7 at home versus Texas. Low-scoring game. Give him the full touchdown. I agree with that one. South Carolina +12.5 at home. Bama is known to laying eggs. Auburn money line at Arkansas. Auburn has a good coach and is a top 25 team in the country. Might be the only game this year where they have a coaching advantage. I like the pick. I like Auburn over Arkansas to some degree. I don't agree that they're a top 25 team. And then Northwestern +7.5 at Nebraska. I agree with that one. I agree. And then finally, Memphis is +4.5 versus UCF. Game day would be there if Memphis won last week. Bounce back game. Give me the points, but I also like the money line. So they're not that crazy of picks this week. I think that his silliest take is one, counting Duke as a win last week, but additionally saying LSU takes down A&M, South Carolina at home, covering in Northwestern, saying it is a 50-50 game on a neutral site.
Love it from the hater, Keith. I got these hater picks from my friend Matt, one of the top listeners of this podcast. He's got Ole Miss +4.5, Auburn money line, which is +105. He's got Bama -12.5, and then BYU money line, which is +125. He's got two notes for us. He goes, Penn State and ND both having bye weeks. Sucks for all the haters out there. And his last thing he really wanted me to say to you. Of course, Notre Dame had to take this week off after their one kind of hard game. That's from hater Matt. He's going to be in the state of Mass this weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing him. But that's awesome. Totally agree with everything. I totally agree with all his picks, actually.
Yeah, no, I like his picks. His hate towards Notre Dame is going to get exposed as the playoffs come into play. I think that Notre Dame is pound for pound a top 4 team in the nation. I want that to be known on the record that they would be favorited and would win. I think 95% of all the games in college football if they are not Bama, Indiana, and Ohio State. I think that they are beating Oregon.
Oregon. Oregon.
I think that they're beating Miami in any game.
They didn't.
I'm not even going down this
rabbit hole. They didn't beat Miami.
I got told I make no sense. So
they didn't. I'm going. Miami, but they played. It has to mean something. They played. But no, you're right though, because I agree with you. I hope they win. You're not listening to me.
You're pulling reverse psychology. I mean, I know you are.
I literally hope they win the national championship.
You're drunk.
That's awesome.
I know you're pulling my leg.
Well, great episode. I think this was a fun
Johnny, as always, this was a great one. I'm going to work on my Penn State arguments a little bit so that they're a little bit clearer for our listeners.
Awesome. Looking forward to hearing.
All right, dude.
Okay, see ya.